and welcome to the 34th episode of China Tools. My name is Dennis and I am from Hooked on Wood. And in this episode I want to talk about some clamps. Different kind of clamps. And I want to correct a mistake I made in the former episode about these very nice railguide squares, particularly this extension kit. And I want to answer some questions, so let's get started. I want to start with a mistake I made. In the former episode I showed this Fonson square, which I rewarded 5 stars. And I think it's a very nice railguide square, and as a bonus you can add an extension kit that makes a parallel guide system from this railguide square. And this works perfectly. But one point of critique I made was that the connection points between the two parts was not that strong. But it turns out I made a mistake when I connected them. So I want to correct that. I got a comment from Peter who told me I was connecting it wrong. And it turns out Peter is right. I connected it this way, and besides damaging your parts, it's also not the best connection. So instead of this, you first place the screws on the underside of the smaller bar and then put it into the two pieces. And when you tighten the screw from the inside, your connection is a lot more sturdy. And I would not have mentioned this point when I would have done it right the first time. So thank you, Peter. But the scoring cards will remain the same, which was an excellent score anyway. Many viewers want to know which rail guides will fit. And I found this a difficult question. On the Festool-like rail guides, this is not a problem. So Makita fits perfectly. And the only other rail guide I have is from Veiko. And I see some comments that it will probably fit all rail guides because of its connection to the rail. But in the case of the Veiko, the rail channel is bigger. So you have to be careful. These are the brands rail guides Fonson told me would fit. Some asked me in the comments if you could attach the parallel guide system from episode 30 to it. And technically, yes, you can attach it to the Fonson square. But I do not know about the scale. The scale of my example started from 0, which was a problem. And when your example begins around 20, but it probably does, then it may work. But I do not know that for sure. The next thing to consider is that the extension kit comes with 2 stops with micro adjustments. So this makes it easy to align the whole system. But the stops from the parallel guide system do not have these, so you need to adjust it with the ruler itself. So technically it will be possible, but I do not think it will make it more accurate or fun to use. And another question was if you could attach the extension kit to the Festool rail guide square. And the screws are in a perfect spot because the extension kit will come slightly over the edge and can rest on the workpiece. But you need to make the holes from your square bigger to tighten the extension piece. And I would not recommend doing this. When you watch the ranking on my site of all the products I tested, you'll see a lot of products that score well and only a few that is not that satisfying. And the reason for this is that I try to search for good products, but also it's much more fun to review a good product than a bad one. But this does not mean all the products I receive are satisfying. As a woodworker we need clamps, different clamps and a decent amount of them. And clamps can become pretty expensive. So I have searched for different clamps from Banggood for a long time, hoping they will be of excellent quality. And the conclusion so far is that some are really good and some are average at best. So let's start with the good ones. The last clamp I got is this hold down clamp from Hongdui. And when something arrives from Hongdui, I'm always pleased because most of the time these products are fantastic. And to be short, this hold down clamp from Hongdui is no exception. My last workbench consists of 2 layers of wood, 1 layer of plywood and the top of full colored MDF. And I like to have 2 layers because it feels more massive when working with it. And it dampens the vibrations a bit better. And you notice this when working with it. The disadvantage, however, is that you cannot use rail guide clamps to hold down pieces. But luckily there are some alternatives. And in episode 29 I reviewed this hold down clamp, which I rewarded 4.5 stars. And it is my most used clamp and I love it. It's so easy and fast to use. And as I showed in this episode, it becomes better when you have a thicker workbench top. It has a very good clamping force, which is very easy to create. And I can still highly recommend it. And they sell it for under $15 now, and I think that is an excellent deal. But its reach is limited, and it is not well suited when you want to hold down projects thicker than 60 millimeters. And it is at its best till 45 millimeters. So I use this hold down clamp from Axminster instead when I need this longer reach. With this clamp from Hongdui, go one step further, and the fit and finish are awesome. And the most significant benefit is the possibility to tighten it down in your 20 millimeters hole. And this works very well, and because of this there's no play and gives a pretty sturdy connection. But most importantly, it will not put too much stress on your 20 millimeter holes. And in practice, it is not as convenient as a hold down clamp that fixes itself automatically at the right height. It will take 2 extra seconds, but you can clearly see the differences in stress it creates in the 20 millimeter holes. So the combination of these two hold down clamps is perfect for me. For workpieces till 40 millimeters, I choose the fast clamp from episode 29, and when the workpiece becomes thicker, it feels very safe and sturdy to use this hold down clamp from Hongdui. And the clamping force this hold down clamp from Hongdui produces is strong for such a product. And because of this construction of clamping itself in the hole, you can give an excellent clamping force, even when the products you want to secure become thicker. 50-60 kg of force is definitely possible, but it feels safer for the hole in your workbench to not go any further than 30-40 kg. And between 20 to 35 kg is strong enough for these kind of clamps in my opinion. Also at the highest point it still can deliver enough force. And when I compare this to the Axminster clamp, it puts a lot more stress on the hole in your workbench. And I think that is the most significant benefit of the Hongdui clamp. In short, this lovely and convenient hold down clamp gives me the same possibility as the rail guide clamp, but now with a thicker workbench top. And the only drawback is the price. However, it's obvious why it's more expensive than a regular clamp. It's carefully packed, and I do not think there is a higher quality level above this. It's really of excellent quality, and it just looks stunning. And though not everyone would be willing to pay $49 for this clamp, from a quality point of view and a practical point of view, it is worth every penny. And this is my scoring card. In episode 30 I reviewed these rail guide clamps from Veiko, and I awarded it 5 stars, and I still like and use them. And when I compare them with my Bessey rail guide clamps, the quality become very close to each other. Although the Bessey is still of higher quality, but when you use them you will not feel the differences. I cannot feel blind if I use the Veiko clamp or the Bessey clamp. They have the same characteristics and clamping force as the Bessey clamp. And that is why these clamps are such a good deal. And if you want to know more about them, watch my episode 30. And the reason why I tell you this is because of this clamp. This is a one-hand clamp or a quick clamp, and they are very convenient. And you can use them in different situations. And they come in various sizes. And although most of these kind of clamps looks the same, that does not mean that they work the same. And these Veiko clamps come in a carton box that do not have any protection inside it. That's it, they are very sturdy and will not damage that easily. They start at $25 for a set of 4 6-inch models, which is a very reasonable price for these clamps. And everything looks reasonably well made, although a bit robust. But the secret of these clamps is in the mechanism inside, you cannot see. But this is entirely responsible for how you experience them. Where these Veiko rail guide clamps have the same characteristics as the Bessey alternatives, that is not the case with this one-handed clamp. And the best way to describe them is perhaps that these clamps are a bit too robust or less sophisticated. And you will notice this when you compare that to a clamp of higher quality. If you see this Veiko clamp, you see it falls back a lot. And on the other side you have to give substantial pressure to get some clamping force. And although they claim a clamping power of 100 kg, I did not make it beyond 50 kg of clamping force. But it is a difficult clamp to control. And it's more a bit of all or nothing. And this is the most significant difference between these cheaper clamps compared to better clamps. And I do not have a one-handed Bessey clamp because I consider Bessey as one of the leaders in clamps. But a clamp that I'm delighted with is this clamp from Piher. And although this is a rail guide clamp, it's about the mechanism inside. And when I use the Piher clamp, they are much better to control. Although more lightweight, it is easier to get 65 kg of force. And it does not ask a lot of effort from you as a user to create that. And the fallback is also not that big. And it's also much more nuanced. It is possible with this clamp to give more or less pressure. And another point is how easy it is to release this clamp. With the Veiko clamp you can release the pressure with this little clip. But the harder you clamp it, the more difficult it is to release it. And a bigger clip would have made this a bit easier. When I compare this to the Piher clamp, it asks no effort at all to unleash the pressure. So there's a big difference between the entry level and the more advanced one-handed clamps, which counts on the performance level and on the price level. And to be realistic, this single Piher clamp costs more than the 4 Veiko clamps. I just want to visualize the differences between a good quality, more expensive, and an entry-level clamp of this kind. And with these clamps you can clamp, but you can also use them to push. And you have to change the front piece and place it at the end of the clamp. And the solution Veiko choose for this is not as practical as we see other clamps do. And the question is, of course, if that all makes it a lousy clamp. Well, the fun of this China Tools series is to try to find products that perform way above the price level. And in this case, I think it performs on its price level. It's an entry-level clamp that performs as an entry-level clamp. And I also bought an Aaron clamp for this review, because I think that is a well-known brand. And it did cost me around 30 euros. And it's better in terms that it should produce more force, which it did. But I have to be honest that I was certainly not impressed with it. It also had pretty much fall back when you clamp it. And to release the pressure cost the same amount of force than the Veiko clamps. So comparing these two makes the Veiko clamp not so bad of a deal after all. So in the end, I regret that this clamp does not perform better than the price suggests. But you can't always be lucky. And this is my scoring card. One of my most used clamps are these Bessey parallel clamps. And although heavy, I really like them. And of course they are not suited for every situation, but I always prefer to use them when I can. And the biggest disadvantage is the price. And I have asked Banggood frequently if they had alternatives. And he came up with an alternative. But that one is more expensive than a Bessey clamp, so I did not find the need to review it. So when I saw these clamps, I wondered if they would be a good alternative to parallel clamps. And I have to say that I like the way it looked at first sight. They are painted pretty well and the aluminum bar is nice to see. But I do not consider them an alternative to parallel clamps. But I really like the weight of these clamps, and although no powerhouse, they give enough pressure to glue parts together. And my pressure meter only goes to 113 kilograms, but this is pretty much the power they can produce in practice. And they start at $35 for the 24-inch version and around $40 for the 36-inch version. And the problem I have with them is that all the connections are loose. There's a lot of play, and in one way it's necessary, but I do not have the right feeling about it. On all the points where there will be pressure, it's strong enough, but it is a bit minimum and it looks fragile. The orange pad is from plastic and it will come off after time in my view. And although I like the lightweight construction, it all seems to work pretty well. I even think they will get a place in my shop. I do not have the right feeling to recommend this product. So we came to the end of this video. Unfortunately, not an acceptable price alternative for a parallel clamp. And also the quick clamps are not a bad deal, but they do not deliver exceptional performance for the price. But I think the other clamps are very interesting. Thank you for watching, and please do not hesitate to write a question in the comments. I may not reply to all of them, but I certainly read them all, and I can answer them in future videos. Have a nice day, enjoy the weekend, and well, we see each other next time.